I am Kayla Monroe. Weddings are supposed to be full of joy, laughter, love, family coming together. But the moment I arrived at my brother Ryan's wedding, I knew I didn't belong. Not really. I stood at the entrance of the Grand Hotel ballroom, in a simple navy blue dress I'd saved up for. It wasn't flashy, but it was decent, respectful. I didn't expect to be the center of attention, but I didn't expect to be invisible either. As I stepped in, I scanned the room. Everyone was glowing. Sabrina, my younger sister, floated around in a designer dress like she owned the place, greeting relatives, laughing with friends, directing staff, like she was the bride. Ryan didn't even look at me. I walked up to the reception table to find my name card, but it wasn't with the family, not even at the back of the hall. I asked the usher. He looked confused, flipped through a clipboard, then motioned for me to follow. Through a swinging door, into the kitchen, a folding chair, a tiny table squeezed beside the catering staff. My name scribbled on a sticky note. I think this is a mistake, I whispered. The usher shrugged. Sabrina said this is where you go. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't give them the satisfaction. Not Sabrina, who walked in at that very moment with a smug little smile. Well, you made it, she said, pretending to be sweet. We just figured you'd be more comfortable back here. You always liked being out of the spotlight. I bit the inside of my cheek so hard it bled. It wasn't just the seat. It was everything. Years of being pushed aside. Ignored. After Mom died, they barely kept me in the loop. I raised Sabrina while Mom worked 2 jobs, and now I was just the girl in the kitchen. But that night, I made a decision. I wouldn't fight her at the wedding. No scenes, no drama. Instead, I'd fight her the way she'd never expect. Quietly, legally. Because what no one knew was that I had something in my purse. A copy of a will Mom had hidden, one they never knew existed. And it was about to change everything. I left the wedding early that night. No hugs, no photos, not even a goodbye. On my way out, I passed the gift table, wrapped boxes stacked high, glittering envelopes spilling over. Sabrina stood beside it all, soaking in compliments like a queen. She didn't even notice me slip past her. Or maybe she did, and just didn't care. By the time I got home, my heels were off, and my hands were shaking. I sat on my bed, pulled out the envelope Mom had left me a year ago. I hadn't shown it to anyone. Not even Ryan, especially not Sabrina. I still remember the day I found it, tucked inside an old recipe box wrapped in a plastic grocery bag. Classic Mom, hidden deep in her closet after she passed. Inside, a notarized will, signed, sealed. Dated just 3 months before her death. It read clearly, I leave full rights, ownership, and property access of 124 Holloway Lane to my daughter, Kayla Monroe. The land wasn't just sentimental. It was our family's legacy. 10 acres, just outside the city. Trees, a cottage, a barn, and a field where Mom used to grow wildflowers and tell me stories. After she died, Henry and Sabrina moved in like they owned the place. Built a new fence, paved over the garden. Told me they were just managing things for the family. I let it go, at first. But after tonight, the kitchen chair, the smug grin, the years of silence, I realized they didn't just erase me from the wedding. They'd been trying to erase me from everything, but they made one mistake. They underestimated how quietly a storm brews. I took a deep breath, pulled out my laptop, and opened a new folder on my desktop. Label, Holloway Lane, Evidence, Deed. Copies. Photos of the property. The voicemail Mom left me a week before she passed. Screenshots of Henry listing the land for short-term rentals under his name. Everything they'd done like I didn't exist. I was documenting all of it now. They wanted to push me out. But they forgot something. Mom didn't. And now neither would the court. I didn't sleep that night. My chest was tight, thoughts racing. But not with sadness this time. With clarity. For the first time in years, I felt awake. Angry, yes. But also grounded. By morning, I had emailed every local property lawyer within 30 miles. I didn't have much money, but I attached scans of Mom's will and a brief summary of what happened. Only one responded that same day. A woman named Camilla Ward. Her office was tiny, tucked between a dry cleaner and a taqueria downtown. Nothing fancy, but the moment she saw the documents I handed her, her eyebrows raised. "You're telling me they've been living on and renting out this property, while this will sat untouched?" she asked, flipping through the pages with practiced speed. I nodded. "They told me Mom never left anything, that she died without writing a will." Camilla set the papers down gently, folded her hands. "Kayla, this is legally binding. It's witnessed, notarized, and there's no mention of your stepfather or your sister. That land is yours, full stop." For a second, I couldn't even breathe. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining it. I had something real. Camilla leaned in. "They've violated your rights, not just morally, but legally, financially. If you're ready, we can file a property claim, and I'd recommend a cease and desist immediately to stop them from profiting off your inheritance." The idea of standing in court made my stomach twist. I'm not the confrontational type. I wasn't raised to yell. I was raised to endure. But then I remembered Sabrina's face, the smug tilt of her chin as I sat beside the industrial sink at the wedding, the way she grinned as if she'd won. "No more." "I'm ready," I whispered. Camilla smiled. "Then let's get your home back." I left the office lighter, as if I'd taken off a coat I didn't know I'd been wearing for years. This fight wouldn't be easy, and I knew they'd come at me the moment they found out. But this time, I had something I never had before. Proof. And Mom's voice, quietly echoing in my heart. "Don't let them take what's yours." 2 weeks later, Sabrina called me. I hadn't heard from her since the wedding, not even a fake apology or a text pretending nothing happened. But this call wasn't warm. Her voice was sharp, tight. "What the hell is this, Kayla?" I didn't respond right away. I just got a lawyer's letter saying we have to vacate the Holloway property in 30 days. "You've got to be kidding me." There it was. The panic. The unraveling. "I'm not kidding," I said quietly. "It was left to me in Mom's will." "You mean the will you conveniently found after she passed, that no one else saw? How convenient." Typical Sabrina. Spin it. Make me sound manipulative, like I was the liar. She always knew how to turn things around, make me feel guilty for things she did, as if my whole existence was some burden she carried. "You sat me in a kitchen during our brother's wedding," I said, my voice trembling. "You told me I didn't belong, but Mom thought otherwise. I kept quiet for too long." Sabrina laughed bitterly. "You've always been jealous. That stung. Not because it was true, but because that's what she really thought of me. After all I did for her growing up, after the nights I stayed up helping with her homework, cooking while Mom worked double shifts, defending her when Henry yelled, 'You should have just talked to us,' she snapped. 'Instead, you're trying to humiliate us in court?' Almost felt bad. Almost. Until I remembered how she'd toss me aside like a stain on her perfect wedding. You didn't want to talk to me then. So, I let the paperwork talk for me now. I hung up before she could reply. That night, Ryan messaged, "Me too, just 3 words. Is this real?" I didn't respond, because deep down, he already knew. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. But Camilla told me that silence is what happens before they realize the storm is real, and it's coming straight for them. And this time I wasn't backing down. I arrived at the courthouse in my best blazer. Not expensive, but clean, pressed, and mine. Just like the land I was fighting for. Sabrina and Henry were already there when I walked in. She wore a designer trench coat and sunglasses, like she was walking into a photo shoot, not a legal hearing. He looked smug, sipping coffee like it was a casual errand. But the moment their eyes landed on me, alone, calm, prepared, their expressions cracked. They thought I'd crumble, that I'd lose my nerve. But instead, I nodded politely and took my seat beside Camilla, who laid out our file like a weapon. Photos, documents, the will. Sabrina leaned toward me and whispered, "You're embarrassing yourself." I didn't answer, because this wasn't about a performance anymore. It was about the truth. The judge, a stern woman in her 50s, looked over the documents carefully. She asked about Mom's signature, the date of notarization, the chain of custody. Camilla answered, each question smoothly, confidently. Then it was Henry's turn to speak. "Well, Your Honor," he began, clearing his throat dramatically. "My late wife did leave some notes, but none of them mentioned giving the house to Kayla. And this so-called will, it just showed up conveniently after her death. She found it inside your home," Camilla interjected, "hidden in a sealed envelope in her late mother's closet, a space she had access to growing up before you two changed the locks and pretended she didn't exist." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Is that true, Mr. Harmon?" Henry stammered. "Well, we changed the locks for safety." "Not safety," I said, softly but firmly. "Control." That was the first time I spoke in the courtroom, but my voice didn't shake. The judge sat back, her fingers steepled. "This will be clear, valid, and uncontested until now. You had no legal claim to use or profit from the property, Mr. Harmon." Sabrina's jaw clenched so hard I thought she'd snap a tooth, and then came the moment I didn't expect. The judge turned to me. "Miss Monroe, are you pressing for back compensation from rental income as well?" I hadn't even thought of that. But when I looked across the room at Sabrina, the girl who'd sat me in the kitchen like I was nothing, I smiled, just a little. "Yes," I said. "Every penny." I didn't realize how tense I'd been until we stepped outside the courtroom. Camilla squeezed my arm. "That went better than I expected. We're not done, but that judge sees right through them." The air was crisp, the kind that pinches your cheeks and makes you feel alive. Sabrina and Henry followed a few paces behind, whispering furiously. She looked like someone whose mask had finally cracked. Gone was the practiced poise, the effortless elegance. All that was left was a woman unraveling in broad daylight. I stood by the courthouse steps when she stormed up to me. "You really want to take everything, don't you?" she hissed. "What do you want from me, Kayla? Blood?" I blinked. Respect would have been a good start. Her laugh was hollow. "You've always had a chip on your shoulder, like the world owed you something just because your mom died and you had to help out. We all had to grow up, Kayla." I stared at her. "You think this is about growing up? You sat me in the kitchen at our brother's wedding, like I was the help. You told me to stay out of the pictures, to keep out of sight because I'd make people uncomfortable." Her mouth opened, but I kept going. "You knew Mom left that property to me. You just chose to erase it, like you erased her, like you erased me." Sabrina's voice cracked. "She was going to rewrite the will. She said she was thinking about it." "But she didn't," I said. "And even if she had, that still wouldn't make what you did okay." For the first time, her eyes wavered. She wasn't angry. She was afraid of losing something that had never belonged to her. Henry stepped forward then, trying to regain control. "You don't have to drag this through court," he said. "We could make an agreement, split the property, sell it and divide the profit." I looked between them. "No," I said. "You already made your decision. When you locked me out, when you cashed the rent checks, when you seated me next to the trash cans at the wedding." Sabrina didn't speak again, because deep down, she knew I wasn't the forgotten one anymore. I was the rightful heir. And now, I had the law on my side. A month later, the keys to the Holloway property were finally in my hand. I stood on the porch where Mom used to sit during spring, sipping her tea and watching the sun dip behind the trees. The same porch Henry had power washed and rented out, like it was his to give. Now it was mine again. Legally, emotionally, spiritually. I opened the front door. The air inside smelled of stale air freshener and polished lies. The tenant had moved out just a few days ago, and though the furniture was gone, I could still feel the echo of their presence. Their photos had replaced ours. Their laughter had covered up the history that lived in these walls. But beneath all that, the house still remembered me. The floorboard near the pantry still creaked the way it did when I snuck snacks at night. The corner by the fireplace still had that one tile Mom let me paint with a tiny flower when I was 8. She never replaced it. Said it was her favorite mistake. I sank to the floor in the living room and cried. Not out of sadness, but relief. For so long, I thought reclaiming this house was about revenge. About making them feel the pain they'd made me carry. But now, sitting here, surrounded by quiet and dust and memory, I realized it was never about them. It was about her. About Mom. I pulled out the envelope, the one that held her handwritten will, and read it again. She'd written, "To Kayla, the daughter who never asked for more, but always gave it. I see you. I love you. This house is yours. May it bring you peace." Peace. That word hit me like a wave, because for the first time, I wasn't fighting to prove myself. I wasn't looking for scraps of love from people who only saw me as a burden. I was standing in the home where my mother's heart still beat, in the walls, the creaky floors, the chipped paint she never bothered to fix. I stood up. The house was old, sure, but so was the strength in my bones, and I was ready to rebuild it. Not just the property, but the girl they tried to bury inside it. A week into cleaning the house, I found the attic door jammed shut. It was always a stubborn thing. Mom used to say it was just shy. After a few tugs and a small prayer, the door gave way with a reluctant creak. Dust rose like ghosts. The air was heavy, but familiar. Boxes sat in crooked towers, some labeled, in Mom's handwriting, Christmas, Kayla's drawings, old photos. I sat cross-legged on the attic floor, pulling out one box at a time, and with each item, it felt like I was breathing her back in, piece by piece. Then I found it. A small wooden box, tucked behind an old trunk. No label. Just a velvet ribbon, fraying at the edges. Inside were letters, all written in Mom's hand. The first was addressed to me. "Kayla, if you're reading this, it means you found your way home. I'm sorry I didn't fight harder when they tried to shut you out. I always thought love would be enough, but some people mistake silence for surrender. I never surrendered you. I never stopped loving you. I couldn't breathe." She had written others too, to herself mostly. Journal entries she never meant for anyone to see. Thoughts about how Sabrina changed. Fears about what would happen to me after she was gone. Confessions that she regretted trusting Henry with the finances. Lines that said over and over, Kayla. Deserves better. I hope I gave her enough to stand on. I wiped my cheeks, not sure when I had started crying. Mom had seen everything. She hadn't been blind to how they treated me. She just didn't know how to fix it in her final days. But through those letters, she made sure I knew. She believed in me. She knew I'd rise. I spent hours up there, reading until the sun dipped low and painted the room in amber. For so long, I thought I was alone in my pain. But now I had her words, her truth. And that was more powerful than any apology Sabrina could ever fake. As I folded the last letter and placed it gently back in the box, I whispered, "I found my way, Mom. I really did." And for the first time in years, I felt her warmth wrap around me like a hug. A few weeks after reclaiming the house, I hosted a small memorial for Mom. Not a funeral. She'd already had one. But something more personal. Something she would have actually liked. Just a few close friends, a table set with her favorite lemon pie, her old record player softly spinning Etta James in the background. The house glowed with candles, and I lit one at the fireplace she used to sit by every Sunday evening, humming quietly as she sipped her tea. And yes, I sent an invitation to Sabrina. I didn't expect her to come, but she did. She walked in alone. No Henry by her side, and for once her hair wasn't perfectly done. No heels, just a tired expression and a crumpled envelope in her hand. "I thought you might burn it," she said quietly, handing me the envelope. Inside was a check, a large one. "I sold my share in Dad's estate," she muttered. "Figured I owed you something." I looked at it, then looked at her. "You don't owe me money, Sabrina. You owe me an apology." She winced. "I don't know how to say I'm sorry without sounding fake." "Then just don't say it," I whispered. "Show it. Change it. That's how." She nodded, wiping at her eyes. We didn't hug. We didn't cry into each other's shoulders like sisters in a movie. But she stayed for the full evening. She listened as I read one of Mom's attic letters out loud. She even laughed, a real laugh, when I told the story of how I once broke the hallway lamp and blamed it on the cat. And Mom saw right through me but let me get away with it anyway. After everyone left, Sabrina lingered in the hallway, hand on the doorframe like she didn't know how to say goodbye. "She would have been proud of you," she finally said. "I didn't see it then, but I do now." I nodded, throat thick. "She always saw it," I whispered. "Even when you didn't." And just like that, she left, quietly. No drama, no scene. For the first time, I didn't feel like the girl who needed her family's approval. I was the woman Mom raised, strong, grounded, and finally, free. Months have passed since that evening, but the weight I carried for so long has finally begun to lift. The house feels alive again, not because of the walls or furniture, but because of what I've rebuilt inside myself. I've learned something powerful through all of this. Family isn't just about blood or shared names. Sometimes it's about who stands beside you when everything else falls apart. I still see Sabrina from time to time, but our relationship is different now. It's quieter, more honest. No pretense. No need for competition. We don't erase each other anymore. I've stopped trying to prove my worth through their eyes because I've found it in my own reflection. The courtroom battles, the cold dinners, the whispered insults. They don't define me anymore. Mom's voice is what stays with me. The letters in the attic, her unwavering belief that I was more than the invisible daughter, more than the one they tried to push aside. She trusted me to take care of this legacy, and I will. Standing on that porch today, I see more than a house. I see the home where my story continues. One I'll fill with laughter, strength, and love. I am no longer the girl seated in the kitchen at my brother's wedding, the forgotten. Sister in the shadows, I am Kayla Monroe. Daughter, heir, woman. And finally, I have my place at the table.